Artist to Artist, take 5. We're here with my man Jamie. I really appreciate you coming out again. So I'm at the New Eurekan. He blessed the mic. Brother has some great skills. And so, how did you get into poetry?
So I always wrote. Even when I was younger, I would write poems and hang them up on the wall. With most cats, like most young people in Brooklyn, I started out writing rhymes primarily. So even the poems that I wrote, they were heavy in rhyme scheme. But in terms of the poetry scene, as far as when I really got involved in poetry, officially as an art form, it's about 2005. I ended up going to the New Eurekan Slam, to the New Eurekan Poetry Club, and with the intentions of just listening to poetry. And by suggestion, given to me by someone I just met that day, I decided to slam for the first time. I didn't even know what a slam was.
Do you remember that first poem?
No. I know it was a rap though. Definitely, okay. It was a rhyme. It was from a song that I wrote, and it went well. It really went over well, and I guess that was like my informal introduction to the scene. From there, we would just be at open mic spots every day of the week, every single day. It was like an online calendar that had all the poetry events going on in your city, and so we would just go online like, yo, what you doing tonight? All right, bet. Let me go online right now. What they got going on? And so after a while, it kind of ended up being like a circuit of places that you would go to during the week, from Monday all the way. And sometimes you would have some weekend spots. And that's how I got started. That was the beginning of it, Yeah.
What was the major pitfall you had to overcome when you first started out, or even just starting poetry at first?
I don't think there was ever any really major pitfalls for me. Like myself, like most people, poetry was the thing that saved me from the pitfalls, you know what I mean? So, that's what makes poetry such a unique art form as opposed to the other disciplines, is that it usually serves as a safe haven and a safe place for people. It's where people usually go to escape, to speak. So there aren't really that many pitfalls that you got to stay clear of. Even the ones that might involve people, they're usually just distractions and not pitfalls. So that was it.
So when was the moment you really felt validated as an artist?
As an artist, this will transcend poetry. I think when I was just young, when you create something and you're celebrated for it, even if it's just a simple, yo, that's nice. So, yo, he could draw, or yo, he could write, or yo, he could sing, or he could dance. The moment you get acknowledged, those are the defining moments. Those are the moments in which you stop and say, oh, well, maybe I do this. Maybe this is my thing. This is what I do. And so you just start to pay more attention to it. But that was it. I don't think I had one of those defining moments. But my first one that I remember was just maybe about like age 6. I came back from the park and I drew the whole scene of me and the fam at the park, So that was my first creative experience,
So you're an artist as far as drawing as well?
Oh yeah, I'm a multidisciplinary artist,
That's cool.
So I'm pretty sure that helps in many ways when it comes to my writing. But yeah, definitely. Like poetry was not my first stop into creativity. It wasn't my first creative language at all. No.
So a lot of poets/writers, poets turn into writers. Do you have any aspirations like that? Do you want to write something, type of novels, or anything like that?
I write now. I have a book out now. It's called Being. Full name is Being, a 50-quote guide for success in the business of life. And to answer your question more directly, that book it's a compilation of quotes, and that book specifically is designed as a personal development book. And so over the last few years, I did begin writing outside of the realm of poetry, but a lot of what I write ends up being like short essays, quotes, and then some prose and short poems as well. In the last year, what really happened for me was I realized the power of words and my ability to use them to reach people, to help them heal, to help them grow, to help them transcend the different, uncomfortable areas in their life. You know, me realizing I could use these words to help them not just grow but get past these rough patches. I said, you know what, I'm gonna use every single mean that I have. So even when it came to poetry, if you listen to my poems, they're very rooted in that. It's very message heavy. You walk away, not just being moved, but you walk away with a new dimension of thinking. You look at something differently, and so so that's really it. So in terms of writing, however, I'm not so much driven to write novels, but it's not out the question. I wrote my first play when I was 14, and funny enough that I wrote my first play at 14 and actually was directed, produced, and performed by the youth of my church at the time. It was a play that was written in rhyme scheme, based on a Bible story. So even that, like I've been writing in so many different capacities. So I don't really, I never felt limited to anyone, any one particular form of writing. So.
Mm-hmm. That needed to be said because I think some people don't understand what really goes into it.
Yeah.
And it's different from reading something that's just written into a book and then actually performing a piece.
Right.
So talk to me about performing a piece after you've written it, after you put in that work.
That's the part I'm still learning more and more about. I have experience performing, but one thing I'm realizing now is practice. Practice is that's what separates to me putting it on paper versus performing it. The more you practice it, the clearer the message becomes. The more you learn different techniques to make that message more digestible. It's like anything else. If you come up with a recipe, as you continually make it, you fine tune it by where you get to extract the flavors to a certain level of intensity by where it's it serves the purpose. So even if you made it for nutritional purposes, you get to refine it by where you get the optimal level of nutrients from whatever the ingredients are. You might get the best, the best sourcing for that ingredient. So when you're practicing your poem, you're practicing the inflection of every word. You're practicing the enunciation, the pace, the body language, the eye contact. Performing is it's essentially, it's the difference between, presenting a plate of food for someone versus feeding them. So if I just write it in the book, you pick it up, you feed yourself, you eat it on your own. When I perform, I'm feeding you. So I set the pace at which you eat, at which you digest. So again, when you realize that you have that ability, it's another responsibility, it's another opportunity. It's cool.
Mm-hmm. All right. Do you have a favorite poet or any poets that you really look up to? Or
I don't.
Dead or alive?
I don't. I'm a child of hip hop. I'm really that guy. Sometimes I don't feel out of place in the poetry realm for that reason, but I feel like there are times when I would or could or might be looked at weird because it's like a lot of people in the poetry scene are very fanatical about certain writers, certain performers. Respectfully so. There's a lot of people that paved the way, but again, I stumbled across the poetry scene. I wasn't looking for it. I was writing rhymes. I grew up listening to, and the MCs are poets too. Let that be said. But I grew up, listening to like my first rap album that I ever bought was Warren G. Regulator, and which might seem strange because I was from New York, but being born in Cali, it spoke to me in this way. Like, oh shoot, I just felt it in my soul. I fell in love with Dre's production. So, but then in terms of lyricism, Biggie was the first rapper that was boom, the flow. And then from there, I think the next one was Busta Rhymes. Busta Rhymes, vocabulary. So by the time I started listening to Extinction Level Event, he was pulling out, multi-syllabic words, just and rhyming them, you know, in so many ways. You know, Busta Rhymes would employ onomatopoeia, you know, um, and so you're learning about the different elements of writing while listening to rap. And again, each rapper inspired me in a different way. When I listened to Busta, like when I listened to Big, it was like I knew how to formulate the flow, how to ride the beat, how to switch the flow in the middle of the verse, you know, in the middle of the bar. But then Busta made me like, unconsciously made me like step my vocabulary up. And from there, you know, there's other rappers like Pun, you know, like you talk about the flow, like Pun was just a master. You know, you hear him on the track, and he's like running these tight spirals around the track. Then you got even Eminem. When Eminem came out, you know, coming up in the battle era, you know, as a battle rapper, being in the streets, you know, outside of school, on the block, wherever, you know, standing outside of Def Jam, you know, rhyming, you know, someone like Eminem, he showed you how vicious you can get with words. It's like, yo, I could use these words and say the most extraordinary, outlandish, shocking thing and have it rhyme. I can like use words that rhyme that you didn't even realize could go together to form a sentence, and then, you know, convey a message that's gonna blow you away.
I would really like to hear a piece from you.
Yeah.
Your pick.
Can I do a snippet of one? Lord, cause that
yeah, I know. Yeah, I know. Your joints is.
Yeah, cause I get in, but see though, we are beauty. We are cotton. We are sugar. We are tobacco. We are Lloyds of London. We are the Bank of England. We are Barings Bank. We are Barclays Bank. We are narcotics. We are commerce. We are contraband. We are the global economy's unquantifiable algorithm. We are the ground you walk on. We are karma. At 180 degrees, we are a tracking device strapped to God's back. We are moving in mysterious ways. We are watermelon. We are the oil your grandmothers used to fry chicken in your kitchen. We are the grease on your fingers. You lick my sisters off your lips. You spit out my brother's bones. We are guilt. We are gossip. We are your closet. We are holding your skeleton safe beneath our tongues like Pocahontas immortalized through the scalps of black girls with Indian hair. It has to be disturbing. It must be painful. It must hurt for you to look at us knowing that after all these years, all these generations, all your lynchings, all your slander, all your propaganda, all your human engineered disparity, after all the lies you have trickled down to your descendants, after you've worked so hard, you are still unable to deny our beauty. I'm gonna leave it there. There's more to it, but I'm gonna just drop that there. Yeah.
Oh man, that's wow.
Yeah.
Like, how can you not be moved by something like that?
Yeah.
And do you remember the space you were at when you?
I don't know. I mean, one of those pieces is just, I feel like as a black person, you exist in that space. It was just born out of the notion of like, of the issue of our identity as a people is that we allow everyone else to tell us who we are in every situation, in every moment. And that's problematic. And everything that they tell us that we are, the one thing that they don't ever admit that we are is beautiful. They call us everything else but that. Everything else. So it was born from that, you know. They call us, like, you know, everything else. Athletic, strong, brave, extraordinary, sexual, you know, anything but beautiful. That poem was written from a space that we exist in constantly as a people, not just in America, but, you know, across the world. You know, anywhere where you find a European imprint, you know, and you also find us coexisting within that realm, that's the space we live in. It's a space where we're acknowledged as so many different things, but not beautiful. We're called so many different things. so many different adjectives, so many different nouns, but never beautiful. You know, we're called, you know, strong, aggressive, dangerous, threatening, useful, sexy. You know, we're acknowledged for different body parts that we have. You know, we're acknowledged, but not appreciated. And the thing about beauty, beauty is a word of appreciation. It's a word of acceptance. It's a word of validation. And so I think that's the reason why that word is used on black people so sparingly. Like, you gotta be, man, you gotta be either the most blackest midnight thing, the tallest model-esque, you know, skinny blackest thing to be, you know, to get the pass of beauty. But even still, it's like even in those moments, it's like as if they say, you have to not exhibit any, you know, Afrocentric features for us to be able to call you beauty. You have to make this as Eurocentric as possible for it to be categorized as beauty. So even furthermore, the issue is for it to be such a hard thing for you to acknowledge the beauty within us as a people, but then be able to try to, you know, adopt certain, you know, attributes that we're known for, you know, and then when, you know, it's almost as if to say, like, when we're doing it, it's hard for you to acknowledge it as beautiful or acceptable. It's taboo at that point. Oh, that's wow. And then you turn around and it's like, but then you're doing it, and then when you do it, it's beautiful now. You know, to me, the piece was written out of a space that says, like no, we were beautiful before you acknowledged us. We were beautiful when you didn't acknowledge us. We were beautiful when you tried to imitate us. You know, it's like, to say that I'm beautiful means that I am a standard of aesthetic. You know, and that's just it. You know, it's really, again, like, as a people, we live in a space where we allow ourselves to be told who we are and what we are, even like by definition, like, you know, black, African American, colored, like literally as their feelings towards us change, and so they decide to change our title just a little bit. We let that, you know, be the jurisdiction under which we identify ourselves. No, you know, and it's really that. It's really a call to me. The poem is like, it's a call to take back your essence, your identity, your value, your aesthetic value, and because beauty is a very important thing. Yeah. For something to be beautiful, it means that it's pleasing in your sight, and you need to be pleasing in your own sight.
That's crazy. So, in closing, because I'm gonna put all the links, I definitely want people to be able to reach out to you and get some things from you.
Yeah.
Where can we find you at, and where can we get some more of your poetry, man? Some more of your words.
Definitely. Here's what. First and foremost, JamieLeeLewis.com. That's JamieLeeLewis. JamieLeeLewis.com. On my site, you can find links to everything. However, on Instagram, it's Jamie Lee Lewis. On Twitter, it's Jamie Lee Lewis. And SoundCloud / Jamie Lee Lewis. Go on YouTube and look for Jamie Lee Lewis. You'll be able to find my YouTube videos. You'll get some clips of me performing. Also, too, you definitely want to check out my book. It's called Being, a 50-quote guide for success in the business of life. And it's a self-published book. Definitely check it out. It's comprised of 50 amazing, powerful quotes, along with five sections, each one ending with some behavioral prompts. And so that's one thing. Definitely check me out. Understand that, you know, educator, inspirational speaker, everything that I do, it's written with the intention to help you, one, live unconditionally, live from a place of love, and to live on your level. What does that mean? To be in your level, it means to not dumb yourself down, to not hold back, to not apply conditions to your greatness and your existing. And, you know, just it's about allowing yourself to be, you know. So that's it.
All right. Thank
And,
you again. I totally appreciate this. It's a learning lesson for me.
Yeah.
I mean, as in life, everything should be a learning lesson. And, you know, definitely a positive brother. When I met you, I knew that. And it's really good to see that.
Yeah, thank you, man.
All right, no doubt, man.
Yeah, man. Indeed.
All right.
Definitely, man.